just to remind you, today is the day about equity in CS education. Some of our goals are to go through and understand some of the historical inequities in terms of who has access or participates in computing and what are some of those barriers to that. Identify some strategies for effective CS teaching that can support equity, and then really focusing on facilitating well-structured collaboration in your computing classrooms. I did want to give Diane a minute here because I think on the first day, maybe there were some questions about the workshops and signing up for which ones and stuff like that. So if folks have questions or Diane wants to give a spiel, I'll give you a minute here.
Yeah, I shouldn't have numbered them 1, 2, 3. I guess it should have been 1, 2A and 2B or something, because we really wanted to experiment with this idea of micro-credentials to sort of build up people's capacity in an incremental way to give both in-service teachers and people working with pre-service programs a way to kind of focus on little aspects of computer science or computational thinking. And what micro-credentials do for you is it gives you a way to demonstrate that you are able to actually apply the learning that you have gained. And Digital Promise charges $30 per micro-credential for somebody to review it and to verify that you have met the goals that are demonstrated. Usually it's by trying out a lesson and submitting some student work with a reflection. So most of the micro-credentials have to do with actually applying the knowledge in the classroom. Some of them are more about showing that you understand the concepts yourself rather than that you know how to teach them. And so they're going to look at both of those during workshops 2 and 3 that are being led by Digital Promise. And anybody who participates will get free micro-credentials. I think it's up to 3 or 4 if they want to as part of that workshop. And we're working with our main employer of teachers, which would be all the school districts, to show that if you get a series of micro-credentials, when you put them together, they form a stack, which creates a certificate or a badge. And if the school districts see that as a value, like if you have the cybersecurity education micro-credential certificate, and you have the computational thinking certificate, that shows that you know what you're doing, you've tried it, you've applied it, and that would make somebody more desirable, especially in these districts where they have plans that computational thinking is being taught as part of a science class. It's being taught sometimes even in art classes. They have this whole art thing where they do this 3-dimensional programmed art with a language that's kind of like Scratch. Actually, it might be in Scratch with an extension. I'm not sure. And across the elementary grades, every teacher would need to know a little bit. So it would be nice to have a way to show that people have that knowledge, and not just that they've attended a workshop like the CPD credit shows, but that they've actually been able to apply that knowledge and get some feedback. So that's what pre-service workshops 2 and 3 are about. They're each, a full week of half days. And then we're doing 2 follow-up days at the end of July so that people can get back together again, and especially people designing experiences to fit into pre-service pathways. What is it that we can include in the courses that our future teachers are taking so that they'll understand what computational thinking is and have some experience with it so it's not completely strange. And so we have people from a number of community colleges that are working on that, as well as the 4-year institutions. And we've invited the teachers from the TAM programs, the Teacher Academy of Maryland at the high schools, to come and think about how it fits into what they're doing at that level, because everything should be one cohesive whole where we have experiences that build and connect. So there's the dream.
I have one quick question. So is it mandatory that because I attended 1, 2, and 3, I have little issues because I'm doing summer classes, so that is clash. So I can do 2, I can do all the 5 days. I can do only 3 days, but we need to choose all the 5 days. Am I right? If at all we are attending?
If you want to earn the micro-credentials, you'd pretty much have to attend the 5 days. I don't think you could, you could audit the class, just come for 3 days just because you're interested. But if you wanted to earn the micro-credentials, you'd pretty much have to be there for.
Okay, so if I'm not interested in credentials, still I like to learn, then I can be whatever the 3 days.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're more than
And-
welcome to come and see as much of it as you can. For the higher ed institutions that are applying for grants to get funding to pay people, somebody from that team needs to attend at least one full workshop and one follow-up day. And that way.
Yeah, I'm
know-
going to attend the follow-up day one day,
Okay.
and I will attend. I attended the one I wanted to attend. I'm doing summer classes for my students, so.
Well, you just attended a full workshop. Here you are. You're in this workshop. You're set. Everything else you do is icing on the cake.
Yeah. So thank you so much. Yeah, I love to learn, but yeah. I may pop in workshop number 2 that 3 days, yes, to learn.
Yeah. Sign up. It's
Yeah.
there for us to use. Any other questions about, now, not only are the pre-service workshops open to you, but there are over 40 different workshops for K-12 teachers. And if you want to know what K-12 teachers are doing in their classrooms, just go take a look. It's divided up into primary and secondary. So depending on what your area of expertise is, it's cs4md.com/PD.
Can you please, cs4md.com.
cs4md.com/PD. Yep. In
Okay.
the chat. And anybody who's a Maryland teacher at any level is invited to come and participate in these workshops. Now, some of them are put on by other people who we have to pay. So we have to approve you for those workshops, but just go ahead and apply. And if I recognize your name, we'll approve you. As long as there's room in the workshop. You might end up on a wait list because we have over 600 people now signed up for the workshops. There's 40 workshops. Some of them have multiple sections. Like if it gets, like the Scratch workshop got so full, they had to open up another one and another one.
Okay, thank you so much. I will look into that.
Great. If you want to see what teachers are struggling with and what teachers are trying to learn, go join the teachers in a workshop to get ready for something they have to teach.
Thanks, Diane. Okay, well, excuse me, my voice is not working this morning. I haven't used it very much. Let's do our icebreaker, which will also give us a little practice with the Zoom annotate tool again, because we're going to use that a couple times today. So your icebreaker is to draw a picture of how you feel. And if you don't remember how to get to the annotate tool, you should see like a viewing options bar towards the top of your screen. And then to click on the drop down, and you should be able to get your annotate toolbar up.
Oh, the students also can do like this in classroom?
Yes.
Oh, that's a new thing. I was not knowing that.
Yes.
Woohoo! I see some smiley faces. This is maybe the way I'm feeling, tired. Aw, there's a heart and some love. Nice. Feeling great. You all are getting to be experts at using the annotate tool and drawing with a mouse. That's not the easiest thing. Oh, nice. A Wacom tablet. That makes it much easier to draw, Jerry. Friday. Okay. Anybody need a little more time? Glad you're feeling excited. For those who are feeling a little tired, hopefully we'll have some energizing activities here so it wakes you up in a bit. All right, I'm going to clear the annotations. And we'll move on to the, oh, that's what I was afraid was going to happen. There we go, clear annotations, and we'll move on to the next slide here. So I did want to start today off with a couple of acknowledgements. We've already been talking about one as we were waiting, and that's that Saturday has now been declared an official holiday, and it has been started to be recognized widely across the country, which is great. I did want to say, that whenever we have conversations about diversity, equity, and inclusion, I like to kind of state my identities. So I'm a white hetero woman, which means that I probably have some blind spots and some unconscious biases. And I will try not to do that during the conversation, but just want to acknowledge that that's where I'm coming from as part of it. I think it's also good just to say that the country is in a lot of disagreement and agreement and a lot of conversation and discussion right now about equity in education and what that looks like and what our next step should be. And so I know that teachers, depending on your context, you may be having a lot of tension around that in your school or your institution. Our focus for this particular conversation is on computer science for all students, but also wanting to acknowledge that that is impacted to a great deal just by inequities in the educational system as a whole, and that those are two issues that you can't just separate either. All right. Anybody want to add anything to that? All right. So today, as part of talking about inclusive CS education, we're going to talk about these kind of concepts of access, diversity, and inclusion, and then transition into what does effective teaching look like, and being able to address in particular that inclusion aspect of equity. And then we'll, in the second half of the morning, dive into some of those instructional practices in more depth. But this graphic and some of the material in the next couple of slides comes from the Guide to Inclusive Computer Science Education, which was put together by Microsoft, CSTA, and some other partners. The link is there. It's also linked on the website so that you can access it later. But just to go through that nested box idea.
Hey, Jen, before you jump in, could you put the link to the presentation and the website in there for people?
Yep.
I don't have today's.
Got it. There's the slides.
Sometimes it's easier to read the details when you can pull it up on your own screen.
Sure thing. First one is the slides. Second one is the Google site with the resources on it. Okay. And I will just share again. There we go. Okay, so let's talk about those next nested boxes. That outer box is the idea of access and whether or not computer science learning is available to students at all. The next box in is thinking about who participates in computer science learning and how reflective is that of the school demographics. And then finally, that inner box, inclusion, is thinking about whether or not all students are engaged in the learning. So are they equally engaged? Are they have equal opportunity to achieve the same learning outcomes as part of those experiences and activities? All right. So just to kind of give a little bit more context for each of those, access then is often thought of, as this like the right, that students have the right to a computer science education, and the opportunity, are they able to be in a class? So obviously they can't be in a class if a high school doesn't offer it. There may be some limitations if high schools only offer elective courses and they don't have enough sections, that sort of thing. I put a map up here. This one is from Indiana. I didn't know if there was a map from Maryland, but Maryland has great numbers in terms of 83% of high schools in Maryland offer computer science. And so that map would be full of lots of dots probably. This is an issue though, the same one that's kind of showing up here in Indiana. This is an issue that we struggle with in Minnesota as well, where the urban and metro areas have a lot more computer science than our rural and we call it like greater Minnesota or outstate areas. So just thinking about where computer science is being offered in terms of geography, but then maybe also in terms of the character, like the demographics of the school itself. Is it being offered in schools where there's a high number of students with on free and reduced lunch plans? Is it being offered in schools where it's mostly white students? Those kinds of things. Diversity then is the idea that you're ensuring that CS courses and programs have enrollments that look like the demographics of the larger school or community population. And in particular, we're thinking about things like race and ethnicity, gender, disability. I put a list over here on the side of groups that are generally considered as historically underrepresented in computing. And it does include, low socioeconomic, rural and urban locales, and kind of thinking about that dichotomy right there between the very urban schools and then the very rural schools, and English learners. I say that the box got overlapping of the text there, but this is also thinking about like, how are you offering computer science in your schools? So if you have courses at the high school level, it's only the students who are enrolled in the course. So is that course required? Is it an elective? Is it optional? Same thing at the middle school. Is it an elective rotation? Is it a required rotation that students go through? Is it integrated in some kind of general education? Maybe it's integrated in that Algebra 1 course using Bootstrap. Maybe it's integrated, in K-5 as part of those courses. And so then you're thinking, all students are getting it as long as they're not getting pulled out for special ed services during that time or things along those lines. So. And then that last piece around inclusion, the idea that we're creating learning environments that are accessible and welcoming for students and whatever identities, backgrounds, differences that they are bringing to the classroom. So paying attention to those pieces. I pulled some things from the CSTA has a resource, a look for tool that coaches or administrators can use if they're visiting a computer science classroom. Or I think if you're a field supervisor or a teacher educator and you're working with a student teacher who's teaching a computer science lesson, you might be thinking about like, what things am I looking for in an inclusive classroom? That look for tool has a list of teacher actions and student actions. And here are some things that I pulled from the student action side that you might see inclusive classroom, right? That students are sharing their personal experiences. They're inviting in perspectives of other students. They're creating projects that are personally meaningful. They are being a self-advocate or a peer advocate so that they can address bias, not just in the way they are communicating with each other, but also in the things that they're building, whether it's the program they're creating or other things that they're designing. And that they're thinking about those things. They're addressing the needs of diverse users when they are developing their projects as well. So. Just a little bit of data from Maryland. So access, again, 83% of Maryland high schools offer CS, but what do you notice about the differences between which high schools offer computer science and which high schools do not offer computer science?
I hate that we have plastered all over everything, this thing about 83%, because it's actually like 98%.
Wow, it's old data. It's old data.
It's like from 2018, the data that we have that everybody's got out there. We have a whole dashboard that shows, school by school, district by district, trends and all that, but it only goes up to, there's some data from 2019, but mostly 2018.
I will say I grabbed the data from the Maryland State Fact Sheet off the code.org advocacy website where they have the state of the state. Yeah. So if others are wondering where the data is coming from, that's where I got those screenshots. But I don't have to show that.
Other states have more modern data, but ours is behind. But that's okay. Makes us feel like we have to try harder.
So hopefully this gap right here, where schools that have over half of their students who are qualifying for free and reduced lunch, those schools had less access to computer science. Fewer of those were teaching CS courses. So it sounds like that may have hopefully risen in the last couple of years. And then the other piece over here is this idea that it says percentage students who attend a school that teaches computer science. So fewer Black students attend schools that teach computer science. Same thing, fewer Native American, Hispanic, Native Hawaiian students attend schools that teach computer science compared to white and Asian students. And again, hopefully that gap is reducing if you're getting to the 90%, 90+% of schools offering CS. This diversity in computer science then is about who is in the courses. And so you can see the data broken down by gender and race and ethnicity over here. So you can see the differences between female and male students, and then the differences between, like, say, white and Asian students versus other historically marginalized students, right? And here's the breakdown in percentages for AP exams increasing every year. And then I grabbed some of the data that Barb Erickson does in terms of pass rates. So that's one way of looking at inclusion in that idea of engagement and learning within the classroom, and our students being able to pass the AP exam as a part of that. So this is the data for 4 years over here, and you can see, you know, white and Asian students have the highest pass rates, but actually students with 2 or more ethnicities, racist ethnicities, and then this last year in 2020, the pass rates for Hispanic students were pretty darn close to the pass rates for white students as well, right? And then Black students were rising. And this happens with us in Minnesota here too, just because there's so few Native American students who are computer science courses, and Hawaiian Pacific Islander, those lines are kind of all over the place, depending on whether you've got 2 students taking the exam or 5 students taking the exam and how many pass them. So does that give you a sense or an idea of what some of those kind of like different levels or layers are that we're thinking about in terms of the system and where we can impact equity? Any questions about that? Because we're going to put it to the test here in a minute. Not with a Kahoot quiz, sorry, Beth. I did want to say that there's some limitations to the data. This data focuses mostly on high schools, not computer science and K-8. And you know, that integration approach is a great way to reach all students. And we don't have data for English language learners and students with disabilities in those particular graphs. And except for the one graph, it's not, the data is not intersectional or reported in an intersectional way, which can matter, right? This is also an example of how you could do a similar analysis at your school or district level if you wanted to think through it, but maybe that data dashboard, Diane, is what you were saying, you have those kinds of information about like who's enrolling in computer science courses in districts, or not, just where it's at mostly?
I'll show it off a little bit later. It's an interesting set of data, but again, it's from, you know, 2 to 3 years ago.
Okay. Oh, and sorry, I'm just catching up on the chat now.
I promised to relay any actual questions there.
Okay.
Leslie and I were mulling over the numbers.
So here's our Jamboard for this morning. There are 3 frames on it. The first one is about access barriers, the second one about diversity, and the third one about inclusion barriers. So just to encourage you to use the sticky note. Maybe you're not able to come up with something on each of the 3 frames, but just be thinking about like what are some of those barriers in each of those areas, so that we can keep that in mind as we talk about especially how we're going to address the inclusion barriers today. All right. I will open up the Jamboard too. I dropped the link in the chat and love to see your thoughts, and just drop some sticky notes in there about what some of those barriers are. I would also say, you know, you all are working on addressing one of those barriers today, right? By showing up, having more teachers trained to teach computer science. Up in the chat, or a visual thumbs up. Not in the chat, sorry, in the like reactions here. Okay, well, then this is good. You are, you know, if you're not familiar with them, you're going to learn about them today, and hopefully there'll be a guidepost for you in thinking about your instruction or about the people you're working with and thinking about how you can help them improve their instruction. So they are a bit newer. They've been out, I want to say it's like about a year and a half now. So not around as long as the student standards or anything. They were designed, or their purpose was to help explain what computer science educators should be able to know and be able to do in the classroom. They are very much a set of aspirational goals. So I don't think anyone expects any educator to meet all of these standards, or maybe you meet some of them at one point in time and you meet others at another point in time. But they're there as a kind of that aspirational goal that you want to work towards. I know when I think about my classroom teaching, when I was teaching undergraduate students, I can look at this list and say, oh yeah, I could have improved that. I could have improved that. You know, there's a lot of things that it really helped clarify my thinking around what am I doing and where could I be improving. And then it's also just helpful for folks who are providing professional development to think about where are you providing opportunities for people to practice and have these experiences and help develop those ideas. So the standards, there's 5 of them, 5 large categories, and then we'll talk a little bit about the equity and inclusion one, and then I'll have you do an activity. So the first standard is computer science knowledge and skills, and that's really about the student standards and the concepts and practices, and do you know those, and can you do them and talk about them in the classroom? That second one is equity and inclusion. The third one is professional growth and identity. I think something that is unique about computer science teachers is almost like very few people come out of their undergraduate program as a computer science teacher, and it's an identity that usually develops over time, where you maybe get to teach computer science for a little bit, maybe some more classes, and then you start thinking of yourself, yes, I am a CS teacher, I'm a computer science teacher. And so how do you, think about your professional growth in that way and continuing to improve? Instructional design is that planning piece. How are you planning for the classroom and your students' learning? And then the classroom practice, what are you doing in that environment directly with students? So here is the set of indicators, the top level part of the indicators about equity and inclusion. So can you examine issues of equity in computer science? Can you minimize threats to inclusion? Can you represent diverse perspectives? Not just yourself, but can you bring in speakers? Can you create or have projects that allow students to represent their diverse perspectives? Do you have posters on the wall of diverse folks in computing? Can you use data for decision-making to improve equity? So maybe one of those, that example that I showed earlier, are you keeping track of what's going on in your classroom? And if there are any like trends in achievement by some of those demographics? And can you use accessible instructional materials? So for each of the standards, there's that like short phrase for the indicator, and then there's a longer text that gives more context and information. I'll let you just take a minute to glance at that and read through some of those. Okay, I did just want to point out the first one and the some of the phrases in that first sentence there. Examine how systemic barriers and social and psychological factors contribute to inequitable access. So this idea of systemic barriers, we've been talking about that with the access, the diversity, and like maybe why some students don't want to take AP classes, or why they're being prevented from taking AP classes, or what are the resources at the school that are limiting access to computer science. So we've been discussing that. We haven't talked a lot about things like this around social and psychological factors, but we'll get into some of that as we go through the other standards and the indicators that go with them. So being able to connect to student interest. If students are not interested in the material, they're not motivated to learn. So being able to trigger that intrinsic motivation for students and finding that motivation for them to learn is important. And then there's other things like stereotype threat. What are the stereotypes about people in computer science? And for someone who doesn't match those stereotypes, when might that be an issue in the classroom? If they're looking around and they're the only female or of a limited set of females in the classroom. I know when I first started teaching at Scholastica, our university is 70% women, but our computer science program was like 10% women. And so I was often the only female in my computer science classroom, and it was weird. It was different for sure. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of a jigsaw activity and look at equity in the standards, because as I mentioned, equity actually shows up in all of the other standards, not just in that second one. And so we really want to think about how it is showing up in those other pieces. And are there folks who are here on phones today? Diane had mentioned that. I just want to make sure that like you're in a group with somebody who's got a laptop and can, use the Google Doc. So if somebody's on a phone, maybe just let us know in the chat or unmute and say something.
Hi, it's Ashante. I'm on the phone today.
Okay, then maybe we
And this is Wendy. I'm also on a phone.
got it. Okay, so we're going to go into 4 breakout rooms, and each breakout room has a different standard assigned to it. The numbers don't quite match because equity and inclusion is number 2. So room 1 is going to get to have standard 1, but then room 2 gets standard 3, room 3 gets standard 4, and so on. It's labeled in the document. There's 1 standard per page. So whatever room you're in, you're going to want to go to the standard that you're assigned. And then in your group, just highlight the phrases and concepts that you think are related to equity as a part of that standard, and identify 1 person who can do a report out to the larger group here. Okay. So
this is Dr. Jones. I'm actually traveling. I have you guys on my iPad, so I'll be listening.
okay. All right, so this is the document. And again, you'll see just breakout room 1 at the top, and then the standard that you're assigned. Everybody's going to skip standard 2. And then if you keep scrolling down, you'll see 3 and the last one there too. All right, are there any questions about what we're doing? And you should have edit privileges, so you can just use the highlight tool in here. Right, and Diane is great about creating breakout rooms on the fly, but I don't know if she's had enough time to do that, or if you need a little more time.
Hey, they're ready to go. I just wasn't sure if you were like, we're still saying something. Sorry, whatever you say, let's go.
No, I'm just checking with you. So anybody else have questions? Otherwise, we'll toss you into the breakout room.